In part 1, I showed how Lyric can be used in a traditional way of providing character generation in similar messages. I want to build in a transition where just the text will animate and the bar will stay in place. These are called update effects. To create these, once again, I'm going to right-click on the default timeline and then add transition and select update in. Because the text is not highlighted in the scene graph, leave the empty radio button selected. While we're at it, let's go ahead and add the update out as well. Now highlight the update in timeline tab. Open up the group and highlight the text. Navigate to the transition properties tab. Notice the 2D text is also highlighted in the update in properties available box. Click the add button to add the text to the active box, and it also appears on the timeline as well. Let's do the same for the update out timeline. Click the update in timeline tab and we'll create the transition animation. For this animation, the text is to be faded up on the new incoming messages. Navigate to the surface properties, set the alpha to 0 at time 0, move the timeline marker up to 15 frames, and then set the alpha to 100%. Now let's select the update out timeline tab. For this animation, I'll move the text to the right and fade it out. So at time 15 frames, the text is moved to the right using the X position in the XYZ properties, and in surface properties the alpha is set to 0. To make this message complete, go back to the transition properties and give it a name. In this case, we'll call it lower third. This message is now complete and we have designed our own custom transition. Let's animate the first message onto the output. Read the same message, and then we'll change the text, and then it'll perform the custom design transition when played on the output. When the last message is finished, a blank canvas will either animate the message off the output, or better yet, a different looking message will animate the lower third off, while the new one animates on. In the final part of this section, I'll create and add a persistent message to the output and combine it with the lower third. Let's add a running clock to the lower right by clicking on the clock toolbar button here in Lyric. Let's set it so that it displays hours, minutes, and seconds. Drag the clock to the lower right of the canvas, and now navigate to the transition properties and check the persistent button. Let's just give it a name here as well. I also want to make sure that the clock is always on top of the red bar. To do that, all I have to do is give it a higher scene priority by moving the scene priority slider to 2. The clock message is now ready to be a persistent message on output. You might ask, how does an operator know if a message is persistent? Well, that's shown here by this blue infinity symbol displayed to the left of the message on the scene tree. So let's put the clock on the output and now add the lower third message to it. It really is that simple. You've just witnessed the beginning of what Lyric Pro can provide. With Lyric Pro, multiple messages can be displayed on a single output with persistence. Stunning animations can be created with intelligent transitions without the need for custom design scripting. Lyric Pro is a must for every broadcaster.